everyone. Lovely meeting you here online. And whenever I'm given the opportunity to speak about the wisdom of the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita, my heart becomes quite overcome. That's because I was quite lost myself, even though I was born to a lofty family, renowned for its wisdom, renowned for its ancestry, renowned for its service in the holy city of Ayodhya and surrounding area in northern India. When I came in as the daughter of the patriarch who was spiritually known and renowned, and my grandfather was very famous, so was my great grandfather, so was my father. Here I come in a girl child in a more um, a regressive India, an India marked by patriarchy and gender differentiation, inequality. But I was born to a progressive family because the Vedas themselves, which is a pristine philosophy, do not promote inequality. In fact, they talk about women as being world leaders, not just leaders of India. They talk about women um, um, navigating ships and leading wars and being administrative heads and being spiritual teachers called Brahmavadinis and Rishikas. In fact, the Vedas themselves, perhaps the only scripture known to mankind, man is an apostrophe, which has been authored by women too. There are women seers known as Rishikas and male seers known as Rishis who have authored these beautiful teachings. So I was born in a family that upheld this knowledge not only by the letter but by the spirit too. So I was welcome and I was groomed among a handful, a dozen or so of male students. I was not his only female student, my grandfather's, but I was perhaps his most favorite. And from a young age, he must have known that I'll be talking to all of you at the Banyan event and talking to the world on the world stage that I teach now. But I didn't know any of this. My soul was locked in a shadow. It must have been past life stuff that I had to complete. I had relationship question marks as I grew up. I didn't have a lot of luck with my beginning relationships. So I went through a phase of self doubt. I went through a phase of feeling unworthy of my own ancestry and the own gifts of the knowledge and lineage. I also felt when I would talk about these teachings in my early 30s as I felt I felt I didn't deserve to talk about this. I felt like I hadn't lived this knowledge. But this knowledge didn't fail me because this knowledge from the Vedas is not the way it is promoted today as superstition and magic and here's a mantra, pay this money, get this mantra, it's going to fix you, and these channeling these deities and all of this is like the new crop of Hinduism, and you stick the word Upanishads and Vedas into it. The actual teaching of the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, which is really just one, the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita can together be called the Vedic wisdom. So this Vedic wisdom is based upon knowledge, it's based upon human psychology, it is based upon understanding human fears, human potential, and the human opportunity on the planet. So when this knowledge was given to me, though I felt like I was a quivering, shivering, unestablished, unclear person, clearly my guru knew who he was giving it to because I'm none of that now. And two, this knowledge itself, even just working with it, turning it over in my mind, it slowly gave me that light by which and I shine today, that shines in my book and that shines in the community worldwide of people who feel restored. And it's not magic. I haven't met 90% of the people who write to me or call me their teacher. It's the knowledge that has been an interface between them and me through my satsangs, through my live streams, through my courses. And finally, I took out 3 years of my life. Not that I stopped everything, because this knowledge empowers me to do many things at a high level. And finally, I could write this book. And, you know, it contains a systematic journey, a journey people like me. I'm not that important. My journey from shadow to self is only symbolic of the journey that countless of us have made, can make, and shall make, from darkness to light, from the falsehoods our mind has told us, and put us in a prison of self doubt, to the freedom of emancipated selfhood that is completely capable when we expose that same mind that is addictive to negative thinking, limited options, collapsed way of behaving, and we expose that same mind to this systematic deconditioning kind of knowledge, which is almost 10,000 years old and is the mother of so much wisdom that's happening on the planet today. Why is India called the guru of the world in terms of the spiritual teachings? Mainly because of this knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita, the non dual teachings from the text called Upanishads, and the Vedas. So, when this knowledge ultimately didn't let me down, my teacher's vision for me was clearly not some fanciful vision led from some kind of a pathological desire to see a blood relative become the head of the lineage. He had faith in me, and he told me that I have this faith because you are not so quick to assume things about yourself, and you are committed to truth, and this truth shall set you free. And even though I inherited a title at age 24, people didn't hear about me until I was 40. I didn't take on my first spiritual student. What was I doing in between? I was living the knowledge that I've shared in the book. I was trying to be a mother, trying to enjoy motherhood without guilt. I was trying to be a partner without fear and apology or desire for validation, um, without anger, without quick compassion, false compassion. Sometimes we're overly compassionate just because we love someone or make love to them. We forgive too quickly. So it's trying to find those in between places where I can be sovereign. So, sovereignty to me is self governance, but it's a kind of self governance which is not about the modern day new agey power, which is almost stroking our narcissistic tendencies. But it's a sovereignty that allows that when you're sovereign in that special space through wisdom and anchored within you in your spiritual being, then somehow, due to your presence, your speech, your actions, everyone around you feels empowered. Everybody around you feels equipped to have an inner journey and an inner celebration. So, the journey from bondage of my own fears, bondage of societal expectations that I didn't encounter in my family of origin, but oh, yeah, I did encounter after my first marriage, and the bondage of my own conditioning as a woman, and being part of a gender that seems to borrow some strange scripts of um, somehow limiting ourselves. Even if nobody's saying that to you, it's just there, it's in the air, you know it's worldwide. So my next book that's coming out in February 2022 is Roar Like a Goddess, where I talk about, because I was shocked to find that not just in India but worldwide, There is gender discrimination, racial discrimination. So these were all the things I found and had to address. So the Sovereign Self as a book boldly teaches us how to find our inner tiger or tigress, and to find that you can be okay in every circumstance of life. But what it does take is understanding that we have some special equipment given by the divine power. The the Vedas don't define God as Ganesha and Shiva. The Vedas define God as a formless, nameless, absolute presence that dwells everywhere in all beings, in even inanimate particles, even inside us. And this presence comes from the word Brahman. And the Brahman word, Sanskrit word, comes from the root word Bri, which means that which is the biggest. And when that Brahman shines within you and me, it is called Atman. And Atman is literally defined as Apanoti iti sarvam Atma, that which is boundless. That infinite thing cannot be bound and become like a brown Atma and a white Atma and a black Atma. It's really one. It has different expressions. And the mind is its gift to us. It's an expression of that one self, that one non dual self. Call it Brahman, call it Atman, call it Source, call it God, call it Goddess, call it Divine Feminine, whatever you want to call that absolute ultimate, which cannot be defined, demarcated, limited by one set of people who think or eat or mate in a certain way, but is clearly transcends every existence and includes all existence. Then that truth, when it is pulsating within you, then how come we feel miserable? How come we feel terrible? How come we feel limited? How come we live our life apologetically? How come we commit some mistakes because we didn't know better and then we live to regret it for the rest of our lives? And the Vedas explained it this way, that that is the nature of our existence on Prithvi, or this planet Earth. We have forgotten. This is the realm of forgetfulness. The moment a child is born, the child forgets its old journeys through various lokas, celestial hubs of existence, through various bodies, through various stories, and it becomes very bound in that body and to the relatives of that body and to the people who relate to that body. And it becomes a very material, physical, but um, a strange existence from our own truth. And this forgetfulness is known as Maya, and it's not personal. So, actually, even the person who's the worst person on, we may all decide that this one person is the most terrible person. But if you look through the eyes of the Vedas, then deep, deep down, that person has just forgotten. The disease of forgetfulness is very heavy. That's why when somebody's a little child, they you ask them who's the most special person in the world, and when you were a child, or you might have children in your who have not been hurt as yet, so those little toddlers will say, me, I'm the most special person. Why? Because they know, and this self love is not with vanity or at the cost of hating another. It's That's why everybody wants to hold that child and kiss that child. Why? Because they're they're radiating love for themselves and for the whole world. They don't know the difference between the moon and them. They want to touch the moon and eat it. They feel one with the universe. That non-dual state slowly becomes, duality and separation filled when we say, talk to those kind of people, don't talk to those people, talk to people on this side of the street but not that side of the street. And slowly bigots are born and racists are born, but nobody's born like that. Everybody is born divine, full of love, full of joy, and full of potential. Fortunately, the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita, and probably by extension my book, which is doing a very humble yet very honest um, laying down of the map of that journey, helps remind us at whatever age and stage of life we are. If we've forgotten the lessons of self love and union with a true being that lives in all beings, then there is a way out. And the way out is simply receiving this knowledge again. It's like you left your town and you went off to some other town, and it's easy to come back if you have your memory. But if you've forgotten your memory, you'll take on a new identity. You'll start believing that you live there, you belong to those people, and that, that's your only reality. Then the job of a spiritual teacher or a therapist is to remind you that you belong to the sun and the moon and the stars. You are made of all existence, that you're not that limited, helpless, fragile being that you are, although you're so powerful that we've wanted to have limiting beliefs, self-destructive, self-abandoning, self sorrow causing beliefs. You are all powerful to have those beliefs and thereby then to manifest the life that mirrors those beliefs. Because it's because of your power that you can have a wretched life if that is what you wish to have. It's because of your own power. So careful of that power. It's blast of infinite power, and every thought matters. And that is why in my book I talk about changing thoughts, having 5 types of thoughts, from negative thoughts to from self-pitying thoughts, which is our default thoughts, to other blaming thoughts, which is how we deal with us when we're done feeling sorry, we want to find somebody to blame, God or the world or somebody. And usually we just go back and forth. Then there are third kind of thoughts that I teach, which is you investigate those thoughts. So these are called investigating thoughts. Then the fourth is self-valuing, other valuing thoughts. You start making thoughts that make you valuable to you, and you start seeing the value in others. You start seeing even the value in your opponent, even in your critic, as waking you up to whatever you were unconscious to. And finally, you have sovereignty revealing thoughts, which remind you of your own power. And I've gone through this, I've had students who go through this. And this is tried and tested teachings of the Vedas. These are not superstition enhancing, magical, emotionally indulgent thinking. This is real practical thinking. You can arrest your thoughts where in the negativity phase, go beyond positivity into truth and reality, and then manifest the life you want. So you make your power conscious versus unconscious, because we were already unconscious in the matrix. The matrix is if you go into understanding that even the movie Matrix was influenced by the teachings of the Upanishads, the writer. And the Upanishads in the Bhagavad Gita talk about this matrix. It's like a hypnotic spell. So my first chapter is about why we forgot, and why nobody is a sinner in the Vedas. Everybody is just suffering from spiritual amnesia, some more, some less. And that is why when you're feeling terrible and broken, and you're sitting in a corner or lying in your bed in a fetal position, and after a while something arises within you, and you wake up and you take a shower and you wear fresh clothes and you go, I'm going to show the world who I am. Or you meet a therapist, and the therapist or somebody who's worthy to talk to you talks to you, and within 30 minutes something restores within you. How? It's not like you ate something, it's not like the world gave you something. It's just that somebody helped you shine the light within your heart, and in your heart there was something fierce that was already glowing. You just didn't see it. You just didn't see it. But when you were shown that, even a glimpse of it, something becomes restored, and you create what's called the Dharma spine. And then you come back in the world and you feel sovereign. And then you start acting in a way, and you look the same, and people say, who are you? Are you different? And that's what happens to people. I've seen that happen to me. I'm still part of the same setup, but I feel sovereign. I feel playful, adventurous, creative. And I have students of every religion because these teachings are beyond religion. They are talking to the human psyche, to the human existential quagmire of self estrangement, and they give you a step by step reminder. So that is what sovereignty to me is all about. And so in this particular talk, in the time remaining, I wanted to just share a few gems from the Bhagavad Gita, which many of you may be already exposed to or chanting from, but to me the Bhagavad Gita was like a boat. And when I was drowning in my own misguided mind's insistence upon I'm not worthy, insistence upon others are out to get me, insistence upon feeling sorry for myself, insistence upon staying locked in a small story, insistence upon seeing the glass half empty, insistence upon not doing anything about it, insistence upon being passive, miserable, and even passive aggressive around it. But it was the Bhagavad Gita and the quiet reading of it, and then remembering my teacher Baba Ayodhyanath's voice as it resounded as he taught the people who collected every night around him from the city, hundreds and thousands of them, and I would be one of them. Listening to it, somehow, as I revisited it, it just started becoming my reality. Now, one of the realities was it's interesting that many of you may know, like if I ask you, like if we did a little quiz and we said, okay, here's a Banyan quiz for you. What is the one word explanation or definition of the word yoga? And you would say union. Union means yoga. That's right. Everybody says that yoga means union to something higher, like spirit principle or God or divinity. And so here are the different ways to do it. Deep breathe, and you'll be in a state of yoga. Stand in an asana, and you'll be in a state of yoga. Chant, and you shall be in a state of yoga. Meditate, and you shall be in a state of yoga. And so absolutely. And so here goes the teaching Yada Viniyatam Chittam Atmanevavatishtate Nispraha Sarvakamebhyo Yukta Ityuchyate Tada. When the perfectly quietened mind rests in the self alone, in this being alone, free from longing of all other worldly objects. May I get a promotion? May that person text me? May that person email me? Then we say that the mind becomes united with the self. Yuktaha. This yuktaha, or this uniting, is known as yoga. Now, this was all wonderful for me. But then I was still struggling. So when I would meditate, I'd have this moment of yoga and I'd feel good. But then when I came out of the yoga and I dealt with people trying to box my unboxable being into silos that were determined by scripts that I didn't have any, I and my ancestors had nothing to do with. And the scripts of expectations, the scripts of gender, the scripts of just humanity, boxing each others into it. I would forget, I would not have that state of uniting, and I would be restless, and I wondered if the knowledge had failed. But this is where you have to go deeper. And this is where you need a teacher, like not just a teacher, the pop gurus who ask you to worship them, but the real teacher, the people who are just like real like you and who've dealt with their own ego, with their own delusions, and they can openly talk about it and say, here's how I dealt with my ignorance. Here's how I dealt with the matrix, blindsiding me. Here's how you can do it. That's the purpose of a teacher, somebody like a mentor. And so Baba had told me that not only is union yoga, not only is uniting yoga, but disuniting is yoga. This was paradigm shifting for me. Tad tam vidyat duksam yoga Viyogam yoga sanjitam, which literally means let it be known that um, um, separation from union with emotional suffering is yoga. What does that mean? That if you are in a state of union with that which causes emotional suffering, then disunion from that or disuniting from that is also another way to in yoga with your greater self. So then, what are those things? What are those things that draw us away into emotional suffering? Where do we get into union with emotional suffering? It is through hankering. There are three kinds of relationships according to the Gita, according to the Vedas and Upanishads. One is a relationship with things, the objects that you have, like your boat, your house, your jewelry, your sofa, your furniture, your big television, your rental, your vacations. Then there is a relationship with people, your intimate relationships, your friends, your besties, people, your professionals, your relatives, your parents, dead and alive, human relationships. And then third is the relationship with yourself. Well, we are so much into union with things and people that we have no breathing room for ourselves. And therefore, some viyoga versus yoga, some viyoga is in order. And in my case, it was not enough to be in yoga with myself through brief moments of chanting and meditation and, an inward few moments. I mean, I do them and I recommend them and I teach them. But what really made a big difference was disuniting from that which is not me, that which is an aspect of my world. If I have relatives, if I have a lover, if I have a son, if I have a husband, if I have a best friend, they are still outside me. This difference between not self and self helped, not to create, this is not to create this is not worldly distinction, this is a spiritual distinction. And it's very important when we make an inward journey, dear friends, because otherwise we'll be constantly pleasing, constantly reacting, acting from a plus or minus vantage point, constantly trying to achieve. We might be constantly trying to acquire objects and or letting go of objects, acquiring objects or letting go of objects, marrying objects, divorcing objects, claiming objects and denouncing objects. And it'll take up all our time. But when we separate from all of that and go, those are outside me, that's the field. And outside is the field of things and people and concerns. And in here is the field of spaciousness and boundlessness and effectiveness and love and solutions. So this separation was really helpful. And don't get me wrong, I'm happily married for 20 years. I have a beautiful relationship with my son. I have lots and lots of students worldwide. I laugh with them, I walk with them, I travel with them, I chant with them, I meditate with them. But at every moment, I know what is not self and what is self. This uniting is yoga. So I never get clingy and I don't allow my reality to get warped by what is not, what is what is outside and what is the self, what is the not self. So I engage with the world, I engage with things, I engage with people, with dharma, with consciousness. Even in this talk, there is my authenticity is flowing, my presence, my attention, my joy, my time, my my commitment. And yet, say none of you liked my talk and no book sold. No big deal. I'm not here to sell a book. I'm not here to please anyone. I am here. So I share from myself. I share from this space. It's what I'm speaking is an expression of me. Because if I was speaking to please you, change you, manipulate you, it would become a manipulation. And then all that energy and attachments and expectations and disappointments, none of that follows. So I remember when my first book, Jacob said the first book has become a classic of sorts. It has. It has been translated in so many languages. It was one of the top 10 books in alternative medicine in its years. That was an amazing one. It's in the course book of so many yoga programs and Ayurveda programs worldwide. But do you know that the first day when the book came out and I went for my first book launch at a well-known bookshop in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was like, oh, oh yeah, that was my first book. So the outer part of me was like, okay, we're going for a book launch, and my two students came to drive me. And do you know, only one person showed up. Now I didn't know why at that time. Later I found out that the something had happened, and then the street was closed, so there was no parking, and da 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 da. But that time I didn't know. And so the event manager said, ma'am, was so surprised. Every time you come here, we have to put extra chairs, but one person has showed up for your brand new book. And if I didn't have this sense of disuniting as yoga, and so I was separate from who shows up, who doesn't show up. I sat with this one person and my two students, and we had like this conversation. I finished my commitment. I went home. I told my husband it was a really easy one. I came back early because we're done, had food, went to bed. And I thought, oh well, maybe that one person was supposed to get my attention. And the next day, everything changed because every event there onwards was like bigger and bigger and bigger. And the book went from, place from, landmark to landmark, and which is happening with my second book. But if I didn't have this deeper understanding, then I would really be like questioning what's going on. And I would get all confused around, am I attracting negativity? Am I manifesting? And instead, I was like, what is meant to be is showing up. Maybe I'm just meant to be in this really sacred space with this one person who's shown up, and we laughed and talked, and we actually all went out to dinner afterwards together after the book launch events. And there you go. I disunited from my expectations that hundreds and hundreds of people will show up. And then what was meant to be for the book, it was carried by greater powers. My teachings are always supported. I just continue being living in the state of yoga. Whatever takes me to a state of yoga, chanting, taking walks in nature, um, practicing solitude. So I have all of those teachings in my book. But then I also have teachings on yoga. What can help you separate from attachments, clingy pathological obsessions, your cravings, from your investment in false relationships, in inauthentic ideas, everything. I help my students disunite. So I teach yoga too, not just yoga. And this helps. This is what sets my teachings apart from a lot of teachers coming out of India, because it's not like I was trying to be different, because that takes a lot of artificial effort. I just had to figure this out for myself because I was drowning. And the positive and the teachings that take me to a good place was not enough. I had to invest in the teachings that help me weed out my false beliefs and assumptions, and that was quick. That happened, and that was beautiful. And one of the teachings, one of the path of you, and then union with the self is yoga. So whether you go into union through certain activities like purifying your senses and meditation, which I give exercises of, and you go in and you greet yourself, you open the door and you go, hello self. So the union with the self is yoga, and this self, it is described in the Bhagavad Gita chapters 2 as Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha. So this tushta literally means self-satisfied. So this state of self, when you are in touch with yourself, what does that feel like? Do you have like blue light and new aura and you need a special photograph? None of that. But you have this sense of tushta, Tushta, which means this sense of being satisfied, fulfilled. Like you went shopping to the most awesome mall in the world, right? Mall with all kinds of amazing things. And you had an all expense card paid. And imagine yourself just walking through it, looking at everything with bemused enjoyment. But you didn't feel this compulsion to buy that red sweater. Like you didn't need anything because you were feeling so full within. And I have been through life where I've not felt full despite the red sweater, despite an outer veneer of, trying to look a certain way or talk a certain. Not that I was an inauthentic person, but like any other human being, we try to like, take care of the outer first. And now I'm in a place where I can see the difference, where I can still be in the world and yet feel fulfilled from within. And so then my engagement with students in writing my book, it's when I write it, I know that they will be good books because they are filled with, they come from this place of tushta. They are not coming from this place of trying to convince and sell books and market and be something. They're coming, and I'm so good. And I did write earlier too, and I can see the difference. And so, what is this self and how difficult is it? And do you have to chant in Sanskrit? None of that. You don't even have to be a vegetarian. And I know I'll offend some people when I say that. I get some flack from it. How can you be a teacher of spirituality and not promote vegetarianism? But come on, people, let's have grown up conversations here. I mean, let's look at some people or some societies which have to eat only meat to survive. Does that mean that they cannot have self actualization and self realization? Food is food. The bigger culprit is greed. If you are hoarding food as a vegetarian and you are greedy and you're consuming food like there's no tomorrow, even if it is vegan, versus somebody who eats a bowl of chicken organically raised and killed only to eat, not to be cruel. So I don't eat meat. I'm not saying we must kill, etc. I'm just saying the Vedas were beyond these conversations. They were beyond they did not do gender bias. They even didn't do sexuality bias. I have given quotes from the Bhagavad Gita on how the self is the same in male sex, female sex, and mixed versions of the gender. This has been said by Krishna. All castes are the same. So the caste system that India had was a social ill. It did not come from the Vedas. So similarly, while vegetarian food is easier to digest and considered more optimum, there was an understanding that sometimes, due to certain geographical and other reasons, there might be other diets that should be eaten with gratefulness, without cruelty, and with the knowledge that my body shall be eaten too. So with this kind of knowledge coming your way, it's not dogma, it is wisdom. And I hope you understand that in this age, when there is so much new age fluff and cloud and pink being promoted, there is so much bypassing, there is so much like band-aids being given, that seem to like, now that we're talking about, retraining the brain and attracting what you want and whatnot, uh, some wisdom to deal with the existential issues and to and to be okay with some like the Vedas were humble enough to say, we don't know everything. We know that we are here, and we know we are trapped in this matrix of self-hypnotic confusion and forgetfulness, and we know the way out. And we've also understood that we don't always attract what we want. This world is not a buffet to get what you want. Sometimes what we think we don't want, like somebody betraying us or even some illness, we think we don't want it, like our little mind thinks it doesn't want it, but our soul knows that's exactly what I need for my evolution and for my journey towards compassion. If I didn't break my neck and have a stiff neck, if I didn't lose my entire family to death, once I had a full house of mother, sister, family members, and they all died one by one. It's just me and my dad now. So if I didn't have to deal with death, that was that came to every house, including the house of the Vedic people. So if so, these teachings are part of the fabric of existence. They don't pretend to create an alternate universe with alternate substances and highs and false teachings that are only true for one group of people. These are timeless teachings. That is why they are called Sanatana, and that is why the ultimate teaching is equanimity is yoga. How do you know you are in that state of union? Because you experience this equanimity through sorrow and even through joy. You don't become greedy and crazy and obnoxious and arrogant or foolish. Dukkeshu anudignamanaha sukheshu vigadaspraha vitaraga bhaya krodha sitadhira muniruchyate. When dukkha comes, sorrow comes, you shall find that you are you are more than the sorrow. And when joy comes, when happiness comes, yes, you may laugh and smile more, but you don't get, morphed by just that. And then that becomes your reality. And then you live in anxiety for in case the sorrow comes from the back door. You accept both. Vitaraga vaya krodha. There is a typical loop that the rest of us get caught up in. One is ragaha, we get attached to wanting more happiness and not wanting sorrow. Then we experience bhaya, we have fear in case the happiness goes away and the sorrow comes in. And then we have anger if this is what happens, and we stay there. But for those who have touched the self, who have known the self, they go into sthitadhir, they become more anchored. And now life begins because now you can do the work for the world that you wanted to do. Now you can serve. Now you can write your book. Now you can plant your garden. Now you can raise your grandchildren from a state of your inner seer being awakened because you're not living in constant anxiety and morbid anger of why I became the victim of something and why did my little bit of happiness go away. That why. And when I overcome my why did my mother die at this early age? Why then my only sibling died? Why did my marriage fall? When I was done with the whys, I could then go into here's what I can bring into the world. And suddenly I found that I didn't need a mother because everybody has become a mother to me, and I'm a mother to everyone. Everybody is my sibling. I just don't need that one sibling. I'm not just justifying it, I'm saying it. Like I really felt like when that victimhood and that morbid experience of anger and blame, and then this attachment to things being the way, and I could just live in the cracks, not just through the cracks, but live in the cracks. When I could accept the brokenness, the cracks, the clutter, when I could just be with everything. I was okay with the shadow. I didn't have to push it away. The self was that equanimity was an experience of self. And then I didn't have to always close my eyes and go, oh, though I love home because it takes me into that place. But if I couldn't do it, I'm okay. If I could do it, I'm better. But if I couldn't do it, I'm still great. And this was the beauty of the teachings of wisdom tradition of the Vedas. And then you touch that inner bliss. That's why they say that the inner bliss is the sign of yoga too. Sukhena brahma sparsham atyantam sukham um, ashnute. You touch that brahma samsparsha. You touch that boundless thing within, and you feel this expansiveness. And I invite you to that. And ultimately, you realize that everywhere is that same self. It is shining in the eyes of your dog or cat. And on contemplation, it is even shining in the eyes of your greatest critic. It doesn't, you see, when you reach a certain place, now I realize how Jesus Christ could have said in that moment of being abused, they know not what they are doing. Like this recognition of people's sheer ignorance, of the sheer stupidity comes in. That doesn't mean, oh no, this doesn't mean that you let people walk all over you because you're feeling so spiritually gracious. Your spiritual understanding is not your spiritual obligation to to be to be everybody's I don't have those words, but they're not coming to me. But sometimes we think that we have to be so pacific and so serene, and we have to allow the confused and the delusory to walk all over us in the name of spirituality. Oh no, none of that. Because then dharma teaches us self-respect, um, self authenticity. That's dharma. So the third part of my book is how to live with that self. The first part is why we forgot the self. Second part is how to clean up our intellect and mind and think differently, how to feel all your feelings and yet experience yourself. So how to use your own equipment to be close to yourself and not to fool your own self. And finally, the third part of my book is how to live with with the knowledge of the self in the world. So I even have a chapter on how to walk out of a relationship, how to say no, how to lead your truth boldly and with authenticity. So dharma, but yet you shall know. Like you may vote someone out of office, you may say no to someone, you may even, if you're a judge and you know the self, you may still punish somebody and say, you know what, you need to be imprisoned for 2 years for this behavior. You may do what you need to do at the worldly level to keep it all sane and organized, but inside you, because you know there is one self, you shall not turn bitter. You shall not turn angry. You should not become a monster. You shall not be without compassion. And you shall definitely not be lacking self compassion, self love. You shall have patience for yourself. You shall have a way, and that way shall be eternal for all beings. It shall not just be for the Hindus or the Buddhists or the Sikhs or the Christians. It shall be for all beings who are ready to awaken and recognize the state of yoga, the union, after being in disunion with all that was confusing them and perplexing them and seducing them and manipulating them into settling for half truths. You shall no longer settle for crumbs, you shall go for the cake, and you shall find that the cake is inside you, and you are the baker, you are the ingredients, and you are the enjoyer. And then you shall make wild love, you shall have professional success, you shall raise babies, grow fruits on your trees, you shall enjoy walks with your pets, and you shall encounter the last moment of your life at death with your eyes awake, knowing that I'm an eternal being, and the being only changes its clothes at death. It never dies, and I'm weaving the stories I want. But this time I shall have a conscious exit, not an unconscious exit. And so everything changes with the knowledge of the eternal self. I welcome you to this knowledge, to I'm his humble ambassador. And if you were to read my book, then do let me know, do write to me and let me know if this book changed you? Some people say that even, I mean, we have communities, online communities where people are talking, and people are saying that even few pages of the book, they are feeling more awake, awake from the matrix, awake from the ignorance of self forgetfulness. When I read that, it's not like I go, oh, look at me, what a great author. More, I feel like, this knowledge is the ultimate like awakening tool, and it's working, and it's worked for me, it's worked for my students, now it's working for strangers, it's working for people I don't know. And who is a stranger today? Are you a stranger to me? If you and I were to spend 20 minutes together, we would find out that we are really the same people. Same pain, same joys, and same potential to recognize a divine pulse. With that, I would like to rein in um, my talk today. Thank you for being a receptive, kind audience. And I would like Jacob to help facilitate if there are any questions. I'm happy to answer.
Absolutely. There's been quite a flow and outpouring of thanks and appreciation from in the comments. Harriet has a question. Can you please say more about how I can begin to identify the boundary between my quote self and the others in my family, children, spouse, especially? I often struggle to find or respect what is me, myself, and worry more about keeping others happy.
Harriet, the ultimate dharma is that if you could leave when you exit this world, may you have given happiness to all beings. May Mother Earth be mighty pleased that you visited. Now, there is a new age teaching around giving yourself happiness at the cost of others. I don't agree with that. And especially, it looks like you are a mother. So, a mother is, they said that God could not be with everyone, so he sent them mothers. So, you are the representative of the divine power. And when we are a mother, often we are there for everyone. However, when you are being there for your child, so this is a more new age teaching. When I say new age, don't think I'm saying it only for the West. It's everywhere. It's all over our planet. It's in India too. There's a new age version of the Vedas and there is the traditional version. Okay, there's the new age version of the Bible and then the traditional version. So I would say, so one version is take care of your children, then take 10 minutes out for yourself and meditate. I can say that to you too, that make time for yourself. But often for a busy mother, there is no time to make time for yourself. So how do I tell you what to do? How should you separate and yet serve? How should you step away and yet be there for your family, right? That's the quagmire. Then here is how you do it. When you are cooking for your children, think about this common self between your children and you. Then you're not serving your children, you're serving you too. When you are opening the door to your mother in law and saying, "Hi, nice that you're visiting," don't just think you're doing your mother in law a favor. Think that one day you are doing yourself a favor too. One day you will be a mother in law. Think of the self in your mother in law and you being the same. So, one is think of what unites you with everyone. It already will reduce the fatigue. If I think, oh, I have to talk to every student, write to people's answers, I get so many emails. Now I have this Banyan class to teach, then I have to teach. If I keep a list, it's exhausting. If you see my list, you'll be amazed at what all I do. I actually traveled 15-hour nonstop to arrive in this country yesterday. So I do. And there was a sad soul next to me who I counsel throughout because she had just lost somebody. So she was crying. And I thought, oh, must be, there's a reason why she's sitting next to me. So I was guiding her, helping her. So the point is that one is do that. But I was teaching earlier about sometimes you have to have yoga and yoga. So, one thing you have to do when you go to bed is you have to remember that I am a supreme being and I have taken birth, I have taken on a body of Harriet, and I have all these children and people and family and neighbors and in laws and everybody wanting my attention. Let me draw my energy inwards. Let me suck from the juice that is infinite within me. Let me draw wisdom and light from what I have, who I am right here. Let me settle within. So this, do this inward meditation. So for that moment, just before bed and before you wake up, remember you are the soul, not the role you are playing. Roles come later, soul comes first. So at bedtime, I remember I'm the soul. At that time, all of you vanished and I alone am standing. When I wake up in the morning, I remember I'm the soul, not the role. But that doesn't mean I diminish my roles. Then when I wake up, I remember that all the roles and all of us are sharing one self and through which I help out. So some quality separation only to remember the power within, the presence within. And of course, reading my book will give you step by step guidance. I hope it helps.
We're getting close to time, but maybe we can get a couple more questions in. Nadia asks if you can share with us the mudra for sovereignty.
The mudra of sovereignty is this mudra. You put one hand here, your left hand, or whichever is your dominant hand, put it up here. So it will be like this. You can feel it if you do it. And you should like let your hands rest, lean on your chest, and let this thumb touch your heart. And the heart I'm talking about is not your physical heart. Your mind and your physical heart make a heart known as Hidayam. That's what you feel here. When you feel pain, you feel it here. When you feel joy, you feel it here. So it's this. This is the sovereign mudra. And now open your eyes and just look. So if you're feeling terrible and miserable and you're wondering what will they say and what, just go into this space. Stay here. This is knowledge, and this is the flowering of the self. It can't just be this without this. This is where I would suggest if you do buy my book, or if you were to study the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita with any teacher, don't just do a quick reading. Like read it once, then read it again. Yeah. Like make it your, these are wisdom traditions. These are very deep traditions. Yeah. It'll change you.
Just one more question. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
I'm sure Jacob will share my website. And then you can look me up. I have a Facebook group, private contemplation group. Anybody can be a member who's, it's called Vedic, VEDIC Contemplations by Acharya Shunya. I'm sure if you reach my website, you'll find all the ways. I'm also teaching a 15-week course coming up. If you want to just jump into being led by me, then I'm doing that also on the sovereign self paradigm. There's so many ways. I mean, hey, I was an old school teacher for a long time. The reason I've not been on Banyan books earlier is because, Jacob, I was that old school teacher thinking, give me a tree, give me a chair, I'm just going to sit under it. And I refused to go online. And I was very private. And and then I don't know, I gave myself, I came out of that box too. Who cares? What's old school anymore now? As long as I can serve and reaffirm my own light in the process and give and share. So now I'm online and you can find me everywhere. I'm sure I have a Twitter account too. Yeah.
Well, we're so grateful that you came and shared with us today. This was very profound and gave me, and I'm sure all of us, so much to work with and think about. And so I really want to thank you, Acharya Shunya, and I want to thank all of you for coming out today. And wish to remind you, you can purchase Acharya Shunya's books at banyan.com. You can find Acharya Shunya at acharyashunya.com and also at awakenedself.com, awakenedself.com. And again, the titles of her books are Ayurveda, Lifestyle Wisdom, and Sovereign Self. Um, so it's been a real honor to welcome you with here today.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.